All right, we're live. I'm Mike Sainato. Welcome to Real Progressives this afternoon. We have a special interview for everyone. We have Anthony Clark with us. He is a brand new Congress candidate for Congress in Illinois' 7th Congressional District. Anthony, thanks for being with us this afternoon.
No,
So can you start off by telling us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to run for Congress?
yeah, most definitely. Thank you for having me on. I thank for anybody that's logging in, joining us today. Truly appreciate you taking out your time of day, to listen to us and listen to why I'm running and what issues are important to me and the entire movement. So Anthony Clark, born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. My parents, when I was at the age of 5, my parents were from the south side of Chicago, Morgan Park neighborhood. Two extremely hardworking and loving individuals that essentially, to this date, I'm 34 years of age. So for 34 years have literally dedicated their lives to me, dedicated their lives to providing me with better opportunity. And, I think opportunity is that key word, and, it's a common theme throughout, the message and throughout the movement. So, they're born and raised in Morgan Park, south side of Chicago, urban community, urban area. Even at their time, 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, wasn't a lot of opportunity. They worked extremely hard. They were not college educated. They were able to obtain, sustainable employment. And because of their hard work and because of their sacrifices, they moved me to Oak Park, Illinois, which is a suburb outside of Chicago, western suburb, viewed as diverse, viewed as progressive, not always in reality, but definitely viewed that way. And they wanted to provide me with a better opportunity, build on the foundation that my grandparents laid for them. They created, further took that foundation. And they wanted to, provide me with a better life. And that's what they did. So moved to Oak Park. So I lived in Oak Park since the age of 5, diverse community. But due to the fact that, my parents were from an urban community, I'm a black male, growing up in a predominantly liberal white environment. I oftentimes, even at an early age, would witness disparity issues, witness equity issues. And it was always something that was on my mind, even as a youngster. I may not have been able to fully articulate it or understand it, but I always noticed it. If perfect example, if we crossed into the Austin community, which is, a community right next to Oak Park, literally a block, separated opportunity from lack thereof. A block separated a extremely clean community and, garbage cans on each corner and, anything and everything somebody could ask for and want. And you cross this block over and there's nothing. It's not the fact that the people are different. People are just as intelligent, just as loving, want the same things as the people on the other side of the block, but literally a zip code or area code determined, your capabilities and possibilities to a large extent. So I always recognize that, when I would visit family members and see how they were living and struggling. And then I would go back home and, again, my parents, middle class, worked hard. Long hours. And, I had anything and everything I wanted, and I always took that in. And my grandpa Chum, he always told me he was a huge Muhammad Ali fan. And, one of Muhammad Ali's quotes that, my grandfather took to heart, instilled in me was, service to others is the rent you pay for room here on this earth. And I always believe that, like, you can't take for granted what you're given. You can't take for granted any privilege that you may have or any, safety nets or foundations that you have. So it was always in my mind, and so I graduated from high school. I graduated from Oak Park River Forest High School in 2001. And just, again, being a black male in that community, I had a lot of benefits, a lot of privileges, but I also struggled at times due to racism, due to other forms of oppression that I experienced firsthand and also witnessed, whether it's racism, sexism, ableism, homophobia, anti-Semitism. Like, I recognize this all, and I was bullied, as a child growing up. And, one of the things that, along the lines of service to others was also instilled in me is when you're bullied, like, you stand up. Like, you stand up for yourself and you stand up for others. And one of the biggest, experiences I had, I went to a Catholic school, and I was a Baptist. It was a Catholic school. So they could take communion. I couldn't take communion, and I was like one of the few black kids there. So it just created a lot of separation. Like, I was always different, get literally picked on a daily basis for, my looks and appearance and, where I was from. And, so I would just fight, I was a fighter. If you picked on me, I would fight back. And that's how I always was. You punch me, I'm going to punch you harder. And it eventually got to the point where I was actually asked to leave the school, not for defending myself. I'll never forget it, but I was walking out of church, and there was a small Jewish boy that was being picked on. And, I just lost it, man. I was just like tired of it, not even for myself, but for everyone. And I defended him. And from that, they asked me to leave the school. And then, I went to the public setting. But so I've always been that type of person. I've never been shy to defend myself, defend others. I've never been a quiet person. Like, I speak up. So it's always been part of my life, so, fast forward back to my high school graduation. Even though, my parents sacrificed so much, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was still trying to figure out who I was as a black male in society, because you have so many different things pulling at you. And, I feel like going through my educational career, there's not a lot of opportunity and exposure for like positive role models within black culture, within those history books that oftentimes come from Texas. Texas is a great state. Love Texas to death. Great barbecue. But, essentially my history books growing up were like whitewashed. Like, I didn't have a lot of exposure to black culture. I had to find out a lot on my own and figure out for myself that, from my history, we didn't start with slavery and we're not going to end with it. But, that was hard to try to unpack and truly understand at a young age. So I struggled for a little bit, moved to Atlanta. But my parents being great again, I ended up homeless in Atlanta. Not really having direction, feeling bad about myself because I didn't take advantage of what my parents sacrificed for me. And my father actually just jumped in his vehicle, drove down to Atlanta overnight, made me get into the car, and I just left everything, and we drove back to Chicago, drove back to Oak Park, and just had a heart-to-heart conversation, about how he experienced life and the things he went through when, just to be blunt, he served in the military, and whatever your personal, opinion is about the United States military, he remembered like coming home and being so proud to wear the United States uniform, that they were on furlough. And it was he and, two other buddies of his, and, they wanted to hit the town. And he will never forget, like, standing on a street corner and a pickup truck driving by, and a white male stopping his pickup truck and yelling out the window, "You're still niggers." So just like talking about things like that and recognizing and truly understanding that issues are systemic, and to date, we truly have not affected systemic change. Like, we've grown, this is a great nation. We've definitely come far, but I think too many have gotten content and complacent and not realized that we have so much further to go, because so many still lack opportunity. So from that conversation, I felt like it was time for me to be bold and, take my life into my own hands and create opportunity for myself. I didn't want to rely on my parents. So again, despite what you may personally feel about the military, I joined active duty military service. I served in the United States Air Force for 6 years, active duty. I came in as a computer programmer, but I worked mostly as a C-17 crew chief, 28531D. Served in the United States Honor Guard, so served in funerals for, fallen airmen and fallen servicemen. And I did 6 years, and, it was great. It was a great experience for me. I mean, there was a lot of, issues that exist in the military because, again, issues are systemic. But, provided me with an opportunity to grow, to travel, to see outside of my world, outside of myself. I traveled, met so many different people, conservatives, Democrats, Republicans, liberals, atheists, uber religious, different cultures and backgrounds. So that was rewarding and enriching for me to be able to build relationships with so many people from so many different backgrounds, and understand how to communicate, and try to grow and identify commonalities. So I actually was going to do 20 years, because while I was in the military, I had such great support, and I actually was able to go to school. I obtained my first degree. I have a degree in communications. I obtained a second master's degree in criminal justice while active duty military. It was crazy, but, that's what the type of support I had. They believed in me and allowed me to go to school. And I actually was going to stay in, but I believe in being extremely transparent. I woke up one day blind. I couldn't see, and it took like a 6-month process, and it was determined that I had what's known as Behçet's disease. It's an autoimmune disease. It's in like the family of like rheumatoid arthritis, sarcoidosis, which famous Chicago comedian Bernie Mac, succumbed to sarcoidosis. But so I just couldn't, they med boarded me. I was medically discharged from the military. I could no longer serve, received an honorable discharge. But I initially thought I was going to go into the criminal justice field after my military service, with my criminal justice degree, because I felt like that was one of the systems that I wanted to directly attack and directly change due to the systemic issues that existed. But after that, due to my disability, I'm not complaining. There's so many more people with it worse than me that need greater support than me. My life is good. I had to reevaluate. So I went through the Troops to Teachers program and became a special education teacher. So I moved back home. I moved back to Illinois. I taught 2 years at alternative school in the Austin community. I taught 1 year at a charter school in the Humboldt Park community. I taught 1 year CPS. My first year teaching there, I remember I was so excited to get to CPS, and teaching Hyde Park, it was the strike year. So literally you get hired, and but it was so important. We had to strike, but I spent most of my days buying iced coffees and marching and mobilizing. And I was like, wow, this is great. But no, it was needed. We needed to mobilize. And now I've been teaching 9 years total. This is my 5th year back at my alma mater, Oak Park River Forest High School, which I graduated from in 2001, and now I'm a special education teaching there. So, you take that all into consideration, all of my experiences, my engagement in the community, wanting to give back, wanting to pay rent, wanting to address systemic issues that existed on all levels. I just had so many different experiences that have just, created my schema, created my pedagogy in the sense of how do we truly create mass movements that impact systemic change. So that's what I've engaged in throughout my life, trying to close what I call generational capital gaps. And, how can I quickly explain that? You have 2 types of generational capital gaps, economic and social. And I told you earlier that my parents, despite the fact they worked extremely hard and were able to maintain a great life, they didn't go to college. So when I was in the military and it was time for me to go to college, I didn't have that direct safety net. Like, I couldn't rely on my parents to show me how to apply to college. Like, what is a FAFSA? What does it mean to, truly apply and talk to counselors? Because they didn't have that background. They didn't have those experiences. So they didn't pass that down to me. So I needed outside help. And thankfully I was able to receive that. And you have economic generational capital gaps as well, where, too often, in Chicago and other cities and states, when someone dies, unfortunately, tragically, or, anyway, too often our families have to go to GoFundMe accounts because they don't have life insurance policies, or, they don't have any type of capital built up from property that's been passed down generationally. So many families are able to build capital because their great-grandparents or their grandparents owned homes or owned property or had life insurance policies that they passed down to them. So when you think about it, when so many people say, oh, just grab yourselves up by the bootstraps, I think Senator Franklin said it, so many people don't even have the boots. And I look at it as well as some people are provided the boots, like your boots are passed down and you just have to take it to the next level and build on that foundation. So from that, I felt like I wasn't doing enough as a teacher. I never feel like I'm doing enough. I wasn't earning my salary. I wasn't earning my place in society. So I formed a nonprofit called Suburban Unity Alliance. And we actually, we were founded in July of 2016. So if you, go to Facebook, you can type in Suburban Unity Alliance, you will see our page. We have a website as well. And our motto is fights are not mutually exclusive. And we just engage in, equity issues, equity fights. And literally we've done everything from purchase of cleaners, a new window and equipment that was broken into, to host free financial literacy classes with the local public library, to partner with PASO, the West Suburban Action Project, to push forward a welcoming village ordinance and also try to impact that in surrounding areas, to purchase a church security system that was being harassed by a white supremacist organization, the same organization that harassed a Jewish temple. They were harassing this church in the Pilsen area because they had high numbers of undocumented congregation members. We were trained in DACA applications. So we help out with filling out Dreamer applications, and, we buy groceries, help pay for rent. We just did a backpack drive. We have community engagement opportunities. And the biggest thing we've done now, I got frustrated in the sense of waiting on opportunities. I don't feel like you can wait on opportunities. Too often we get ourselves caught in that, waiting on our leaders to create opportunities for us, or waiting on the government to create opportunities. And I was working with so many at-risk youth that needed jobs. We weren't finding them. So my organization partnered with another individual doing work, and we created the opportunity. We created a lawn care business, called Neighbors United LLC, and we employ 100% at-risk young adults. And it's been beautiful. The response from the community has been amazing. So many people are reaching out and providing us with opportunity to work and opportunity to make money, and provide our youth with the ability to remain off the street. Because believe it or not, so many do not want to be on the street. So many do not want to be engaged in negative activity. But if your opportunities are limited, oftentimes that is your perception. So that's been wonderful. We're able to buy a truck. Byline Banks sponsored us with donations from the community. We just bought our first F-150 truck, so I'm smiling because I'm just extremely happy and excited about the possibilities and future of Neighbors United. So from all that work, I opened up an email one day, and the email stated it was from Brand New Congress. At that point in time, I didn't even know who Brand New Congress was or what Brand New Congress was about. And it stated that, due to your work in the community, multiple individuals have nominated you to run for office. And honestly, at first, I'll be honest, I was like, hell no. I could not stand politicians, though I was involved behind the scenes, with impacting policy. And, I was friendly with certain politicians and, had conversations. For the most part, I had disdain for the political process and for our political leaders, because I feel like the majority of them in both parties, Democrat, Republican, etc., are self-serving and don't truly serve the people. They serve, these special interest groups and large corporations that fund them, that fund their ability to remain career politicians. So I didn't see myself as a politician. I don't cower, I don't placate, I don't pander. I say it how it is, either you're for us or you're against us. So I really was like, me as a politician, with all my tattoos and my attitude, but through working with Brand New Congress, learning their platform and just learning what they were attempting to do, truly create systemic change. And there was a heavy correlation between BNC and the work I was already doing with my nonprofit. So it harkened back to what my grandfather said, paying rent, service to others is the rent you pay for room here on this earth. And I'm like, this is an opportunity to take this to the next level and not only pay rent, but rent to own, like create ownership, like truly create ownership and opportunity and impact those systemic issues. So we vetted each other, and I ended up in Knoxville, Tennessee, at Brand New Congress headquarters, for a weekend, and, just really getting down to the nitty gritty of it. It was like a calling. This wasn't something where like, I want to be a leader, or I want to have power, or, oh, I want to make money and, people need to listen to me. This was like, no, like I'm meant to do this. Like, this is what's supposed to happen. We're in this together. This is about the people. So why not me? If not me, then who? And from that, I've been a Brand New Congress Justice Democrats candidate. If you're not familiar with the platform, Brand New Congress Justice Democrats, we believe in, again, creating opportunity. That's how I define it. I'm an opportunity candidate because what I believe happens is, and what I want to tell people is, too often people get caught up with, in a capitalistic society, with, somebody's taking something from me. Like, if someone else has something, that means I have less of. And that's not true. That's how we get caught in being divisive. And that's how we get caught in allowing systemic issues to exist. I'm not sitting here saying that everybody on this in this world, on this earth, or in America is going to be rich. Not everybody's going to be a doctor. Not everybody's going to be a lawyer. Not everybody's going to be wealthy. Not everybody's going to be middle class. But in America, where our ideals, our principles, we end the pledge with liberty and justice for all. We're promised life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's an inalienable right. Everyone should at least have the opportunity to succeed. Not everyone will succeed, but everyone should have the opportunity to succeed. And how do you create opportunity? You have to be a transformative leader. You have to be part of transformative movements. I truly believe everything happens locally before it happens nationally. So we're trying to impact national change through local grassroots movements. You cannot be for the people and accept corporate influence, accept corporate donations and corporate money. We are 100% grassroots. As a Brand New Congress Justice Democrat candidate, I will not accept any money from corporations. My only special interests are the people. And that's the only way you can be, because if not, you're going to be influenced. And I believe that the majority of our political leaders, part of the establishment now, are. They're not truly for the people or answering the people. So, if you're familiar with Brand New Congress, not, our platform, Summer of Progress, we launched it out. In order to create opportunity, people need their health. People need education. People need job opportunities, etc. That's how you create opportunities for people. So we're pushing for single payer. We've been heavy in the fight for 15, workers' rights, etc. Women's rights. We're supporting all of these, voting rights. We have to get rid of Citizens United. We believe in moving forward. There's no making America great again. You can't go backwards. We have to embrace moving forward. And yes, there's fear that exists, but we have to invest in infrastructure, and we have to invest in new energy, clean energy resources. I'm sure you're going to have questions. I'm sure people are going to pose questions and comments and statements, but, I didn't want to, go too far into it. But I mean, that to me sums it up in the sense of, I am a candidate of opportunity. I'm a people first candidate that is about creating opportunity for others. If you use an analogy, we're in a marathon right now to eliminate these systemic issues that we're facing. This is not a sprint. I'm not Usain Bolt. None of us are. Great athlete. But right now, so many people are born literally starting hundreds of yards behind other people because of lack of opportunity that exists. Now, yes, some people may be stronger than others. Some people may be able to afford private trainers. Some people may have to practice harder than others. Some people, it may be natural for them. But everyone should start at the same starting line at least. And we don't have that now. We truly don't. And that's a systemic issue. And we have to address those. And, it goes to, again, fighting for healthcare for all, criminal justice reform, educational reform, fighting for workers' rights, fighting for our unions, fighting for, a clean economy. Automation is occurring. We can't stop automation. We understand fear, but we have to embrace that fear and attack it head on, because while it will eliminate jobs, it's also going to create new jobs. So how are we training our current workers? How we build bridging that gap, training them to transition, supporting them, and also training our future workers, to be prepared. And we're not doing that right now. There's too much fear mongering and divisiveness. I mean, we see it right now with Charlottesville. We see it right now with the march that's taking place in Boston. Things have to change, and we have to truly stand up now and realize that. So, that's the juxt of it in the sense of, why I'm running, opportunity and change. And, we're in this for the long haul, and we're gonna win. We're gonna make it happen.
And can you speak a little bit about the issues facing your district and the political climate, and how are people feeling in your district,
right,
given Rahm Emanuel's I guess the turmoil that has been under his office. You as a teacher, he's faced and really pissed off the teachers union in Chicago.
Definitely.
The Laquan McDonald cover up from last year, it's still ongoing. On Monday, his office faces a contempt hearing because he won't release the Freedom of Information Act request documents pertaining to that cover up. So this whole climate, what has that done to Chicago? What has that done for the people of Chicago?
Correct.
And how do people step up to fix all that?
Yeah.
Because even that, we've had Democrats in office in Chicago, but the things aren't changing.
Right.
So how do we fix that?
Yeah, I mean, great question, and thanks for posing it. I think first and foremost, we have so many individuals now that are activated. So many individuals now that are involved, becoming allies or joining the fight, that want to see that systemic change occur. So first and foremost, it's about education. We have to educate voters, and we have to educate allies and supporters on the issues. And the key word is systemic. Rahm Emanuel, other political leaders on the Democratic and Republican side, they didn't create these issues. Trump didn't create these issues. He's a byproduct of them. He's a symptom of the root causes. And these issues are systemic because they've been a part of our culture and society for decades, for centuries. And one thing I try to explain to people is, you know, so often I have so many great allies that come to me and say, well, I'm not racist, I'm not sexist, or I'm not homophobic. And if you understand like critical theories, critical race theory, and et cetera, and issues being systemic, you do not have to be racist to work within a racist system. You do not have to be sexist to work within a sexist system, and so on and so forth. You don't have to be an anti-Semitic to work within an anti-Semitic system, et cetera, et cetera. When it comes to ableism and homophobia, it's the same narrative that exists. So we have to change the way we're attacking these issues, because to date, what occurs is we support political leaders and we support movements that honestly aren't truly progressive, to be honest with you. I think we have to define what being progressive means, define what moving forward means, because too often we allow individuals to take leadership roles and create movements that are progressive by name, but aren't truly progressive. Or we allow the establishment to co-opt truly progressive grassroots movements for their benefit. You know, oh, I'm progressive, support me. Rahm Emanuel has been horrible for Chicago, has been horrible for Chicago. And I'm going to give an example of how things occur where we have, you know, fickle memories, we have short-term memories, and then a political candidate or a political incumbent strategically identifies a movement that they could latch on. Oh, I'm progressive, I'm for the people, to get votes and to hope that everybody forgets about everything negative they did before. The perfect example right now is our welcoming, you know, city ordinances, our welcoming village ordinances. Rahm Emanuel, there's evidence that shows that he has not forever been a proponent, been a supporter of immigrants and immigrant rights. He has not always been a heavy, staunch proponent of it. But because he's been so negative for the city of Chicago, all of a sudden now he's latched on to, oh, you know, we're going to sue the government. You know, I'm so for, you know, immigrant rights. I'm a proponent. I'm your ally. Have you been an ally for Black people? Have you been an ally for middle class, lower middle class people in Chicago? Have you been an ally for immigrant rights before this? No. But they count on so many of us not being educated and not being involved. They count on so many of us not paying attention until they're in front of the camera and it looks good and, you know, it's tailor-made, and then we jump on, oh yeah, we're going to get behind Rahm. No, he's been part of the issue. He's been part of the problem. So the way, first and foremost, to truly create systemic change is to educate ourselves, identify who is truly progressive, who is truly moving this needle forward, and realizing votes aren't enough. I'm going to get back to Rahm in a second, but votes aren't enough. I mean, look at Ossoff. Look what occurred with the Democratic Party in Ossoff. They tried to package him as this progressive candidate. Millions and millions of dollars were spent on this race, and we lost. And even if we won, we just spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on a candidate who was not progressive for votes. In 2017, our political leadership, they need to do more than just vote. Yes, some people vote the right way, but what are you doing beyond voting? Because if we understand bills, a bill could be presented or introduced. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to become law. They can support a bill and look good, and people say, yeah, he supported that bill, or she supported that bill, or they supported that. But is it becoming law? Why are they supporting it? Are they supporting it just to pander for votes? Are they truly supportive of this? Do they truly believe this? So what else are they doing? Are they helping to lead grassroots movements? Are they tapping into grassroots movements? Are they showing up on a daily basis in the community and earning that $200,000 salary that they get? No, the majority of them aren't, because they're part of the establishment. And the way the establishment survives and maintains is by treating symptoms, not by treating root causes, by treating symptoms. Think about this analogy. And my heart goes out, and I pray for anybody that has lost anyone from cancer or is fighting cancer. I have family members and friends who are. But this analogy is used oftentimes that what do people profit most from? Treating cancer or curing it? The majority profit more from treating it, not curing it. We aren't curing these systemic issues. We're just treating symptoms. So that's why you have individuals like Rahm who, in the answer to the educational system, being the disparities and the disproportionality that occurs in our educational system in Illinois, which is funded by property taxes, which creates inequities. We're underserving our students. Instead of going back and truly understanding and recognizing how can we invest in our public schools, he's trying to privatize and wipe his hands of the issue. He wants to union bust. So that's why you see him privatizing our food services. And you have companies like Aramark, look them up, educate yourselves, who nationally are horrible. They're feeding our kids raw chicken nuggets and spoiled milk. It's disgusting. Kids aren't eating. How can our kids learn on empty stomachs? And a large portion of our kids who lack opportunity, they depend on schools for their meals. That's how he's privatizing our janitorial services. That's why he and so many others are pushing for the privatization of education with charter schools and magnet schools and these choice programs. Why not invest in the schools that exist in our communities? Why not research how to do that and actually do it? But that's what they're doing. They want to treat symptoms, and they get away with it oftentimes because we're not truly educating ourselves, and we have to do that. I mean, look at Rauner. Yes, Rauner's an issue for the entire state of Illinois. He's a Republican. But what occurs is, strategically, our Democratic establishment, they point at him as the boogeyman. It's all Rauner's fault. It's all his fault. He's the issue. I mean, have you heard of Madigan? Have you not heard of other individuals that have been on the Democratic side? Rauner was elected for a reason. We didn't always have a Republican governor. Clearly, the issue was truly not just on the Republican side. Democrats have to look in the mirror, too, and hold ourselves accountable. But they don't do that. We don't do that. So it's about just truly educating ourselves and taking it a step further. And I implore people that are in this fight, you know, myself as an activist, as a nonprofit leader, as a political candidate, we have to move beyond lip service. We have to move beyond on a Saturday going to a march. And I'm not saying everybody does this. And the people that do this, I thank you for going, but think about what you're truly doing. We have to move beyond going to a march on Saturday, taking a picture, posting it on Facebook, getting likes, calling ourselves activists, and then on Monday, we go back and quietly work within the same systemic system that caused the march in the first place. So simply marching, simply yelling is not changing anything systemic. We have to truly push for systemic change. We shouldn't just be marching when it's a headline, when Trump says something. How about we march for the covert racism and the covert oppression as well that's been happening for centuries, for our educational systems? Let's march for that. Let's march for our educational systems and demand measurable change. Demand for the funding system to change. How about we march for the inequalities in pay that women face when it comes to men, and demand measurable change? We just cannot wait on something to hit the screen and be like, oh, Trump said something, let's march now. Or, you know, this is nothing new. People have been losing their lives forever for this. So, you know, that's what I say to people. Identify the issue, identify the root cause, not the symptom, and march for and identify measurable goals and identify what are you willing to sacrifice. Because the opposition, they're perfectly fine with allowing us to march on Saturday, get it out of our system, and then go back to work on Monday, or some people that work on Sundays. Treat the root causes. Perfect example, you raise Chicago. One thing Rahm is good for, and other Democratic and Republican leaders, Illinois has extremely strict gun laws. But the nation doesn't, but states around Illinois doesn't. But what happens every time a shooting occurs? Our politicians get on a platform and say, oh, we need more gun control, more gun laws. We need to add to the... Again, that's treating a symptom. That's not truly getting down to the root cause. I'm a true proponent and truly believe nothing stops a bullet like opportunity. Everything is interconnected. If we invested in our infrastructures and we invested in our educational systems, if we invested in community policing, building relationships between our officers and our community members, you would have less individuals dying. You truly would. You truly would. Guns do not pull triggers by themselves. And we have to look into, again, criminal justice reform, eliminating mandatory minimums, identifying and addressing the issue with our cash bail system, eliminating that. And I'm a staunch proponent of legalizing marijuana, not just for the financial benefits, but because of the disparities that exist in sentencing right now, who are being targeted. Even though it's decriminalized right now, anything under 10, still Black, minority, and poor individuals are disproportionately targeted by the war on drugs and the everlasting impact of it and effects of it. Hello, I'm going to newsflash and I'm going to stop talking. Poor Black and Hispanic male and females, and they are not the only ones who smoke marijuana. I know a lot of white professionals that do too, but somehow they don't get caught up in the criminal justice system.
And My last question is, you're running against an incumbent, Danny Davis. So can you speak a little bit about, how you're engaging people in your district
Right.
and trying to explain to them and tell them,
Right.
why we need change in your district and
Right.
why they should vote for you?
Definitely. Definitely. So again, I'm big on accountability. I am extremely big on accountability and what role each and every one of us plays in being complicit in the issues that exist. So for me, even prior to running for office, when I've been engaged, because this is not strategic. This is not, oh, I'm running for office, so I have to get some photo ops. I have to get out into the community now and look like I care. This work has been going on. This work has been going on. So being out in the community and seeing who is there and who's not, and seeing who shows up when the cameras are present, and who shows up when the newspapers are present. But when the newspapers and cameras aren't, who leaves and who stays? I'm one of those individuals that is always there. And I'm not special. There's hundreds and thousands of individuals that are there as well. But there's so many leaders, including the incumbent, who are not there, who don't hold themselves accountable. There's no way possible you can tell me when I become a congressman, if I hold that seat for 20 years, and in 20 years my district maintains status quo or regresses, that I have no accountability in that. No. Part of that is my problem. I played a role and I'm complicit in that. So the incumbent is complicit in where this district has gone, where our city has gone, where our state has gone, and where our nation has gone. He is not a transformative leader. Voting, voting is extremely important. So many people say, oh, well, he votes the right way or she votes the right way. Yes, but what are you doing beyond voting? What are you doing to actually engage locally and tap into these grassroots efforts and understand that in order for something to change nationally, it has to start on a local level. And that's not occurring. And that's where the separation occurs. Yes, anybody could vote, but it shouldn't take people to send postcards and have to postcard. It shouldn't take accepting money from these PACs and these special interest groups to vote the right way. We're lacking transformative leadership right now that gets ahead of the voters and stands on principle and tells our party where we need to go. And I don't think we have that right now. They're absent. Our leadership's absent. And the only time I see the incumbent is, honestly, when the cameras are present. When the cameras are present. And I'm there. So we have to make change. We have to make systemic change by educating the public, by uniting the communities, because that's one thing that hasn't occurred within the 7th. You have a community like Oak Park that has extremely high property taxes. As a teacher in Oak Park now, I make 6 figures. Every student has books. Every student has as many papers as they want. They each have a laptop. In the same district in the 7th, my first job, I taught in the 7th my entire life. I made $18,000 at an alternative school. I taught freshmen through senior students in the same classroom, no books, and we had 3 computers, and they had me teaching Spanish. I am not bilingual on computer. Certain disparities like that should not exist, and they have existed for years. Where's our leadership addressing those issues and truly bringing that up? That's a problem. The health of one community impacts the health of other communities. The health of one district impacts the health of other districts, and our leadership doesn't understand that. It shouldn't be taking us. I'm glad we're doing it, but it shouldn't be taking the grassroots efforts and organizations to build these bridges. Our leadership should be building these bridges, shouldn't they? And leading the way and teaching us. But somehow we're leading our leaders. Somehow you notice all these political candidates and incumbents are getting behind the grassroots movements and trying to co-opt them and say, oh, yeah, what do you want me to do? Where's our leadership that knows what to do? Where's our leadership that leads with us and creates other leaders? They're running on the systemic issues. They're running on treating symptoms. I mean, the minimum wage issue, perfect example. Don't we all know that minimum wage, if we don't know, minimum wage is not tied into inflation. That's been a huge issue forever. So right now, what do our politicians do? They run on a platform of issues. We're fighting for 15. And granted, I'm going to fight to death until our workers have rights. I'm going to fight for anything because fights are not mutually exclusive. But when is 15 not going to be enough? 3 years, 4 years? Are we going to have the fight again? Now we're fighting for 22. We're fighting for 25. We're fighting for 30. And again, they're going to have an issue to run on. How about we address the root cause and say minimum wage is not tied to inflation? Let's change that. Or fight the root cause of we need to get money out of politics. The incumbent said to a group, which was telling to me, one, he stated that brand new Congress candidates have no chance to win because of the money in politics, while simultaneously saying the money in politics is a problem. But he stated that because there is money in politics, I'm going to take the money. I'm not going to not accept it. Where's the complicity in that? Where's the accountability in that? He made a statement that, if somebody offers me $40,000 for something I'm going to vote for anyway, I'm going to take the money. Think about that. Unpack what that means. So it's time for change. We need somebody in office that is willing to sacrifice it all. And that's me. And that's others. Just like these grassroots organizations and these people marching in Boston right now, and Heather and other individuals in Charlottesville, you have to be what are you willing to risk? I don't care about money. I don't care about power. I care about eliminating these systemic issues. And that means that while I'm a congressman, I'm not only going to vote the way I'm supposed to vote, but I'm going to be in the streets on a daily basis, creating opportunity. I'm not going to wait on, I voted, so we'll see what happens. I did my part. No, I'm going to create the opportunity and force the issue, because that's what needs to happen. It's too important. It really is. It's too important. So.
And before we let you go, is there anything else you would like people to know about your campaign, your district, or what's been going on this past couple of years?
Yeah, thank you. I just implore people again to think outside of your life, to remove yourself from whatever bubble you may have. I'm not saying all people are doing this, but I'm just saying, tap into empathy and intersectionality, and recognize that while hate and oppression may not be on your doorstep today, if you don't address it while it's on somebody else's doorstep, it will be on your doorstep tomorrow, the next week, the next month, or the next year. We have to truly tap into intersectionality and create mass movements by fighting and caring for everybody. Because when we don't, that's when we find ourselves in 2017 fighting the same systemic issues that we've been fighting and marched for, and so many died for decades and centuries. I want you to think about that. So the people in the 7th district, whether you think I'm middle class, I'm upper middle class, I'm at a great school within the 7th, think about the other people in the 7th that aren't. Think about the other people in the 7th that aren't. Think about Maywood. And I want to give a shout out to the individuals in Maywood, the grassroots organizers in Maywood that are doing such a great job. They replaced the school board, and they're pushing for change on a grassroots level. The school board, the opposite school board that ran almost proviso into the ground through mismanagement and just corruption, were supported by the incumbent. But proviso, Maywood, Forest Park, etc., all the other provisos, they were able to create a grassroots movement. It takes us. Get outside of yourself and do not wait on anyone else to create the change that we can create for ourselves. Not one person is going to do this. Not one person is going to do this. It's going to truly take all of us identifying what are we willing to risk, what sacrifices are we willing to make, and doing it. And I just want people to know that and remember that. Barack Obama isn't going to save everyone. Hillary Clinton can't save everybody. Bernie Sanders can't save everybody. Donald Trump damn sure isn't saving anybody. It takes us and whatever leader is in place supporting that leader and showing that leader how to lead sometimes. So remember that. And that's my message. And just know that, I'm serious about this. You can look me up, Anthony Benson Clark. What do my young students say now? Google me. So you could Google me if you want to, and you can see throughout my life. This is not a strategy. I'm no Ossoff. This is not a strategy. This is real life. This is every day we do this. And I love you all that support, that are allies, and know I'm your ally as well. Fights are not mutually exclusive. So no matter your socioeconomic or demographic background, just know I'm going to fight for you. And I pray and hope that you fight for me too.
All right, well, thank you, Anthony, for taking time out of your afternoon to come on. For everyone that's watching after the broadcast, I'll put in a couple links from Anthony's bio on Brandon Congress. So if you want to donate or look up more about him, check out the comments. Thanks again, Anthony.
Thank you much.
And everyone else, enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Thank you.